Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I want to teach you how to make proxies in Premiere Pro. But the first thing we should probably go over is what is a proxy and when you would want to use it. So with film footage getting so large in terms of file size because of 2K, 4K, and 6K, 8K, and God knows what it'll be down the line, it becomes very difficult to work with those files because they're just so big, right? And so a proxy it's basically a much smaller file size that's a lot easier to work with when you're just doing the edit. Because while you're just assembling the movie within Premiere, you don't need it to have it at the highest quality, right? You just want it at a version that's usable and quick. Robert Rodriguez has this phrase, working at the speed of thought, and that's the goal. You never want to be slowed down by your machine. And so a proxy allows you to work much faster because it's a much smaller file size and so forth, right? So, the idea is we create a proxy and then you edit the entire thing, and when you're complete with it, then you reattach the original files that are high quality, and you can use that to then export out your movie. But before that, of course, you'd color correct and all that, right? So that's kind of the basic premise. So let's get started. I have my Premiere Pro here, and there's nothing in the project yet. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and import. So for me, I have things here in a test folder, and I'm just gonna select all of these. These are Blackmagic 4K files. And as you can kind of see, each file, these are like this is a 30-second file basically, and it's almost 3 gigs. Then I have some smaller ones, but they're also like just a few seconds, right? So needless to say, these are big files. In fact, overall, 256 gigs of memory equals about 67 minutes. That's not even at the highest quality of 4K that the Blackmagic can do. Anyway, so I'm going to select these and import them. Boom, there they are, right? Now I'm going to create a new timeline, and I'll just call it proxy, just for the sake of it. Now to create the proxies, you don't actually need a timeline quite yet, but I just want to bring them in so you can kind of see that these are my clips, right? Now, of course, if I was actually working on this, I would keep things much more organized, but this is just for the sake of speed. So what you then do, to create a proxy, it's quite simple. You just select all the files you want, right click, and then there's an option here to create proxies. And that's it, right? I mean, not quite. You click it, then it loads this window right here, and you have the option, what format do you want it at? For me, I just set it at H.264, but you can also select QuickTime, whatever's preferable for you. For me, I'm going to pick the lowest resolution possible, just because, for me, I'm just looking at framing and performance. I don't need the high quality to see that stuff, right? Now here, in terms of destination, you can select, do you want it in the original folder, where the rest of the footage is, and, just create a folder for proxies, or do you want it somewhere else? Generally, because you're storing a lot of footage, sometimes you would want to have the proxies on a travel drive, so your editor can have a little bit more mobility with that. So that's why you would select a different destination. But for today, I'm just going to select next to original media in proxy folder. So I'm going to hit OK. And then what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and open up Adobe Media Encoder, right? And so it'll load those in there. Now it takes a little bit of a moment, but once it brings them in, then it'll start to encode them automatically for you. And rather than watching the full process, we'll resume back after it's complete. And they're done. So, see, here are all the completed proxy files, and they are also located here. So remember, here's my original folder. Here are the original files. And then, so the first file originally was 2.51 gigs. And in my proxy folder, it's only 50 gigs, right? A lot, or sorry, not 50 gigs, 50 megabytes. Much, much smaller than the original file size. So easier to store, easier to work with. And so now back in Premiere Pro, these are the proxy files, okay? So, and they've already been linked to in here as well. And yeah, so in that sense, it's done. Now, let's say this is my completed film, right? Not a very good one, but it is what it is, right? Let's just assume. So then when you're ready to bring it back to that full quality, all you have to do is select your files again, and then go to Proxy and just click Detach Proxies. Okay. And then reconnect full media resolution. And these are all selected, so I'll click Attach. I'll go ahead and it should automatically find it. There we go. And click OK. Boom. Now these are back up to full resolution, right? And really, if you are watching the screen, overall, the proxies themselves, ultimately in that sense, don't change the quality, for your edit that much, right? So that's the good news. Of course, it does affect it in terms of color correction and, visual effects, so you want the highest quality for that. But for editing, you couldn't visually really tell the difference. Anyway, that is how proxies work. So may this help you in your film projects.